So like we just discussed the data model. So we started with the application. Now all the UI. So we finished. We are done with the data modeling in the data model stage. And once we have completed that, we created one application. In this file, we will start with the UI. Now in QlikView, like I said, there are two stages. So one is the scripting, one is the UI. Now in the UI, we will not do any scripting. It's basically the binary load, which will enable us to connect to the data source, to the data model basically, and get all the tables or the entire data model as is. So we are not doing any change over here. We're just doing it. While we are doing this, right, it's not limited to the data model, right? So when you're doing a load in the application, the section access that you apply in the data model stage is limited to the data model. So if you want to apply it over here, so you have to apply the section access on the UI place. So you can add over here. Now, along with this, suppose we put 10, 15 tables in the data model stage. We did all the processing. But in the UI, like I said, you can have multiple QEW applications pointing to the same data model. So one data model, you can have like 4 or 5 different applications, UI applications with different analysis in that. So there's like a lot of things that you can put in. Now while you have done that, what you can do is, suppose you realize that these tables are not sufficient for whatever we want to do. So for example, I realize that ship method ID, right? Ship method ID. Ship method ID is just an ID over here. I want the description for this ship method ID. I don't know what this description is. So I'll have to get that from database. So I can do a connect over here also. So it is not, for me, it's not mandatory that I have to have a QED or I have to. So then these rules are best practices, right? Creating a QED, loading it. But somewhere, some places you might not want to do it depending on what the scenario is. So you can create a QED out of the new table and then bring it in, or directly from the database you can select it. My objective of showing this is that there is no limitation. It's not like fixed that once you do a binary load you can't do any other load. So you can add tables over here. So once you have the binary load done, you can add any extra tables that you want to. There was a there's a ship method table which gives me the ship method ID and the details that I want. So I can pick it up. So over here I have the ship method ID, I have the name. I can just delete this. I don't need this. Right. Now, along with the binary load, QlikView will also connect to the database and get the ship method ID lines. So right now I have my ship method ID description in the data model. So the table will actually come and get connected accordingly to whichever ID that ID is that. So it will connect to the existing data model. So it's like you can have one centralized big data model with all the tables for multiple projects, and for individual projects where there is specific requirements of new tables, right? You can add them whenever you want to. So right now, those are the things that you can do in the UI. Now coming to UI. Now UI in QlikView is more object based. When I say object based, it's basically if you have used PowerPoint, right? PowerPoint is, how is it? You get a plain canvas slide. On the slide, you place multiple objects, be it text, be it charts, be it graphs. So images, everything is like an object, right? So in QlikView also, it's the same principle. So most of it is like an object. So to begin with, this is the main sheet that comes up. So this is a default sheet that will come up. So this is the main, it's the first sheet in QlikView. Now this, similar to this, you can add multiple sheets. Now on top this, you can have the standard options enabled, standard navigation, design, sheets, all these things. So the one that you are seeing here in the last bottom is nothing but the design. So if I uncheck it, it's gone. Options over here. Otherwise, you can right click and see options over here, or you can go on top and say objects. You can say what you want, copy sheet, new sheet object, select all these things. But this designer helps you to access all these options immediately. Like the first option over here is add a sheet. So the moment you click here, it will add a new sheet. Now the main tab, like I was discussing, this tab has object, like I said, it has a property in itself. So you can define a couple of properties for all the objects. First, the sheet. So right click on a blank sheet, right? This is a blank sheet. If you right click anywhere, it will give you a couple of options. And if you go to the properties, it will take you to the sheet properties. So over here, if you see, it's directly taking you to the sheet properties. Over here, there are categorized different properties. I mean, now they have categorized different properties into different tabs. First tab is the general tab, which will allow you to change the name of the sheet. So you can say dashboard. Then every object has an ID. So in QlikView, every chart object, every sheet object, everything has an ID over here, so that you can refer it to some triggers or anything. So that's why they have a specific ID, and they have a naming methodology also. So sheet ID starts from SH. So anything to do with sheet starts from SH. There's a list box which starts with LB, or chart which starts with CH. So they're different. These alphanumeric has a specific meaning to it. Now this SH means sheet 1. So this is a sheet 1. Most of the objects, any object in QlikView is like, can be conditionally hidden or conditionally visible. So you can show and hide it conditionally. So to begin with, this is a sheet. So you can have this condition over here. So you can give any condition. Now wherever you see these 4 dots, right? So over here in the title also you should see it. If you click it, it will take you to the edit expression. So we'll discuss about the expression editor later. So you can write an expression over here which can give you a result. So conditional is, so you can say if sum of tax amount is greater than some value you can give. Now if this is true, only then the sheet will be visible. If it is not, it will not be visible. So those kind of conditional expressions you can write over here. Then the background document default is, now this is a whole QlikView application. At a document level, you can define that, okay, what is the standard color, standard sheet color, background color, all those things at the document level. Now if you leave it at document default, it will take, so document default is blank, so it is taking blank. Otherwise, you can change the sheet settings. So you can select sheet settings, color. You can change the color of the sheet. Suppose you select white, you can change it. Now you want to change the color, you click on the color once, it will give you the color area. We'll discuss about this a little later. If you want to change the color, there's fixed and calculated. On the fixed, you can again click one more time. It will give you the color. You want white, you can pick anything. Right. So this color is picked up. Similarly, image. Image is nothing but, so you can pick a particular image. So how you want to, what image you want to apply over here as a background. So if you have a good big background image, you can apply the image over here. Then when you bring the image, right? Suppose I brought this image. This image is very small. It is like this. So if I say no stretch, it will keep that. If I say fill, it's going to expand the entire image and fill the entire QlikView sheet. If I say keep aspect, it's going to do the aspect but just fill it. Fill with aspect. So it will again fill the image, stretch it. If I say tiled, it will tile. Based on how your image is, you can select any of these options. Okay. This is alignment of image, left, horizontal, center, how you want to. If you left, centered, right, it will be center. No, not watermarking, it's the background. So if you see couple of demos, right, it is not watermarking basically. So it's not watermarking. Actually, if you see this, a lot of people kind of get confused as to how these guys got this. So this right hand side, you're seeing this demarcation, right? A clear cut line with a visualization with green and light gradient. And then this part is white with this dashboard symbol on top and the bottom. There's this segregation lines, right? There's a green line, then in the center there's a gray line. All this comes through an image. So if you, okay, here I can't show you the properties of this sheet, but technically this is a background image which is created and uploaded, and that image is filling the entire sheet, and on that image they have put the sales this week, last week, variance kind of a scenario. It's not like, it's not a watermark, it's just an image to enable you to build a good visualization. So if you leave this, suppose I do this left top, so this becomes my logo, right? So I don't have to worry about my logo is here. It's not a watermark basically. Now along with this are the tab settings. So the on top that you see dashboard, set, sheet 1, sheet 2, all these things, these are all tabs. Now you can set the tabs. So if you use classic gray, it will be like, okay, always gray and light gray, dark gray, right? That kind of a scenario. If you want sheet background, whatever is the sheet background color. So I have given a color over here, it's the same color over there. If I say custom color, it will allow me to choose the color for tab. So the same process, click, and you get this. You can pick a particular color for it. You can change the text color too. So text color, you're seeing tab color here. So you can change it to anything else. Now, only the tab colors, right? Only the tab settings that I created, the green, orange and white, only that I can transfer to all the other tabs. Suppose I have sheet 1, right? The sheet 1. I can just apply to all only the tab settings, not the other settings. Okay, the other sheet properties are distinct, but only the tab settings I can apply from one sheet to all the sheets. Then there is this next tab which says fields. I'll come back to this fields later. So when we do list box. The next is the object. Like I said, in QlikView, everything is object based. So sheet is the major big object, the canvas. On that you place multiple objects. So when you, now while doing that, right, you lose track of how many objects you have placed. So if you take the example of this, right, over here there are like not less than 50 objects in this sheet. Now the confusion is which are these objects. So 1 dashboard, 2 week, 3 retail, this sales this week projected, and 4 this numeric value, right, that you're seeing. All are 3 different text objects. Everything is a text object over here. So that way there's so many objects on this sheet. Now if you want to quickly see how many objects are there, so you can go to the properties of the sheet, this object tab, and you can see object ID, type, caption, show mode, whether hidden or is it always normal mode. And you can also see the calculation time, how much calculation time and what is the memory consumption of that particular chart or object. So you can quickly see here, and you can edit the properties of this. So we will review this again in the end once we have a couple of objects built. Then security. Now on this sheet you can add some user privileges. You can say that, okay, allow the user to move the sheet objects, remove the sheet objects. If you uncheck any of these, the user will not be able to do any of these. So as a user, right, so in like I can move these things or resize these things. Now they have disabled it online, I'm not able to. So if you enable all these things, I will be able to change this layout, not permanently, only for that usage session or only for me. So once you have developed, right, when you're working in multiple development environments, or you are yourself, you have developed, and you want to make sure, even by accident, you don't want to change the layout or anything. So you can come over here and uncheck all of these, even you will not be able to do anything. So it will be like fixed forward. So if you click read only, then the entire sheet will become read only. Nobody will be able to delete or move anything. Then the last part is the triggers. We'll come back to the triggers again. We'll do a separate topic on triggers that will be get covered. So we'll come back to it. So this was the sheet properties with a quick thing. So you can add multiple sheets and have a lot of them. I'll add a new one. We'll get rid of the color settings that we have done. So I have got the logo too, which is doing this. Now the creating objects in QlikView. So you'll have to right click again, properties. So there's something select fields, I'll come back to this, or else new sheet objects. So when you go over here, it will allow you, it will display all the available objects. There are different kinds of objects for different scenarios. The first object is the list box. So go ahead, select. Now list box is like you can select one particular field, right? Suppose I select, so let me select territory ID to begin with. I select it, I'll directly say okay. What a list box does is, suppose in QlikView, territory ID, one territory ID is repeated multiple times, right? So in the entire QlikView application, in the entire fact, sales order, header or detail, so territory ID is repeated multiple times. So there is a lot of duplication of this same territory ID. But in a list box, no matter how many ever times that list, the value is repeated, in the list box, it will always show only the unique, only once. So list box is basically the property of list boxes. It will display all the unique values in a particular field. So whichever field you select, for that field, whatever unique values are there, it will display. Right now there are 10 unique values, so it's displaying 10 unique values. That's the property of this. Now this list box we utilize as a lot of selection boxes. So that's where you see this on the demos and all, right? You see this, these things are all list boxes where you are able to select. So everything is a list box because it's displaying the unique values of that particular field. So that's how you achieve it. So you begin with a list box. Again, the first the properties of the list box, like I said, are categorized: general, expression, sort, presentation, number, font, layout, caption. Number, font, layout, and caption. These last 4 tabs are common for all the objects except for sheet IDs. All the other objects, these 3 options are common. So we'll go through and see how you can modify it. Now to begin with is the title. If you don't update any title, right, if you don't give any title, so it basically takes the field name as title. So it says that use field name. If you give a title, it will use the title. So if you give this kind of a title, so if you look at the caption over here, so the gray color is called as a caption for the list box and for all the objects. So in the caption it says territory. So that's how you can do it. If you just click mark use as title, it will always use the field name, whatever field name you are giving as title. Like I said, object ID for a list box, it's LB01. So this is the first list box, that's why it's LB01. Or there it's the first sheet, so SH is 01. Now, when we start a list box, when we give list box, right, suppose the user selects 2. The user selection is green and everything else is gray, right? So because it is not the user selection, it's not associated or linked to the user selection. So if you say show alternatives, now what happens is with this kind of view, the user thinks that, okay, he can't select 3, 4, 5, right? His mindset is, okay, I've selected 2, the others are grayed out, I can't select them. So just to create a better user understanding that, okay, he can connect it, he can select it, you say show alternatives. That is as good as like changing the color of that gray to yellow so that the user thinks, okay, he can select it. This has no significance or this has no real good value in a real-time scenario, but this show alternative helps the user to change that gray color to yellow so that the user understands he can click. Now hide excluded. The moment you do this, all the other values that are there, right, are hidden. So the moment the user selects a particular value, all the other values will get hidden. If the user wants to deselect a value, he has to click again on the same green color. So he selects, it deselects. Hide excluded will hide everything. So read only will just create this object as read only. Nobody will be able to select anything for here. So that is not what we want to do. Always one selected. If you look at it, if I don't select anything and right click and just say this always one selected is grayed out. So what this always one selected does is, suppose a user has selected one territory, right? If he clears it, if he uses this option on top says clear, all this is cleared. Now if he selects one, clicks on this 3, again the value, the selection is cleared. Now, but when you select one value, go to the properties and say always one selected. No matter what clear option does the user use, okay, one value will always be selected in the list box. It's like one of the methods to control people how they see data, right? Suppose they have huge amounts of data, and without selecting one, instead of, if you don't select anything for 10 territory IDs, the huge amount of data is logging your it's like locking down your system, or you're locking down your bandwidth or computer, and you want to make sure that at any given point a user should basically select one field or one value in the territory ID to see data. If he wants to select multiple territory IDs, he can select, but okay, always unselected doesn't allow you to select multiple also. At any given point of time, you're forcing him to see data for only one territory ID. That's why you select always one selected. No matter what he does, it will never clear. So it will always be one selected. Override locked field. So in QlikView, the user has a facility. So what happens is, suppose if I bring in another field, so let me bring another list box. Over here, I'm going to put customer ID. Now what happens is, a user selects a territory 3, all the customers related to that territory are filtered, right, or white. So that's the associative property of QlikView. The other challenge of QlikView is, suppose a user is selected 3 and is interested in 11898 customer ID, and user makes a selection. It's a good part that QlikView flips the selection. So it will basically show me, okay, this customer, the moment I select, all the data for that customer is selected. It also shows me the territory ID. Now, this is also a challenge when the user by mistakes clicks on it, right? Suppose he is seeing for territory 3, or he has made 4 or 5 selections, different selections, and by chance he selects something is grayed out, right? He is interested, or by accident he clicks here. He loses out all the selections that he's done. So that is a challenge. Keeping that in mind, what QlikView has done is, it has given an option to lock the values. Suppose he clicks 4, so a user can right click, lock the value. So the value gets locked. That means no matter where, now whatever grayed out if I select, right, whatever is white I can select anything, customer IDs, but I can't select anything that is grayed out. So right, it's not accepting the selection. Though I'm selecting it, it's not taking it. So because the field, one of the field that I have used is locked. So this is a user functionality which is very important. Now if the user wants to change from 4 to 7, right? Okay, this is not what I, suppose 7 is the locked field. I want to change from 7 to 4. I can't do it directly. What the user has to do is, in a normal methodology, unlock the value, select 4, lock it, right? So this is how the user has to do it. You can choose to keep it this way, or in the properties, if you enable override locked field, what the user can do is, without unlocking it or locking it, unlocking it and selecting, he can flip through the locks. What QlikView will do for him is, it will unlock the value, make the selection, lock the value, like this. So that option is basically override locked field. And if you remember in the hierarchy, we saw this show tree view. So we were able to like display that hierarchical method, right? Tree view. These are these options. Now coming back to, let's unlock this. Over here you have show frequency. Like I said, this table list box displays all the unique values of a field, right? It can also display the number of times the value is repeated, right? Show frequency is nothing but how many times territory 1 is repeated, how many times territory 4, 5, whatever the other territories are repeated. So it basically is showing that way. Okay, these many times, these many territories are repeated. Yeah, kind of count. It's basically count of how many times the territory IDs have been repeated. If you show it in percentage of the overall whatever percentage, what is the share of this particular territory based on the count only. So it's showing frequency, showing percentage. Now what happens is, if this customer ID, right? Customer ID. If I want to search for a customer 148, so what? Yeah, both in the sense you want. Okay, number and percentage. Okay. So with this option, you can't show both. There is a different option. I will talk about it. Just give me a couple of minutes. With this option, either you can show percentage or frequency. So if you want to show both, I will show it how. I will demonstrate how to do it. Now this customer ID, if I can search 1481. So you're seeing that all the, it's searching and it's highlighting that 148. So these are the properties of search that you can do. You can say include excluded values in search. What happens is, suppose if I select territory 5, right? The excluded values are these, the gray ones, 22831. But when I search 22831, QlikView is going to search for that. So it's including the excluded values. Now if I uncheck this option, right? If I say no, include excluded values in search. Now if I search that 2283, it will not display 2283, nothing. It's not displaying that value. So whatever is grayed out, whatever is excluded, 18435, let's see, 18435, it's not. So I can control whether I have to search in the excluded or not. Search mode, default mode, wildcard, fuzzy, normal search, associative. If you enable wildcard, the moment you start typing, the wildcards will be entered. So it's like, it's always types between 2 stars. So this is the wildcard, right? So if you don't have this wildcard, it will use the exact word to match it from the beginning. So you can do some more settings on this, how you want to search, associative search and all. Okay, this is not more that important. Print settings, print values, layout dependent. These are normal settings. So it's the customer ID. Now the second tab of the properties is the expression. So the first tab allows you to do this show frequency or in percentage. The second tab allows you to add a small expression against this territory. What happens is, you can say add. We will discuss in detail how to write expressions later, but I'll quickly show you. Suppose I say count of sales order ID, or let's say I'll keep it territory ID only. Right? Count of territory ID. I will say sum of order quantity. So QlikView is displaying both. So what it is doing is, the 1 to 10 is the territory ID. Second one is the count of territory ID. Third one is the sum of order quantity, and the show frequency in percentage is by default. So this is how you can display both. Suppose if you don't want to display the sum of order quantity, you can display the count and percentage. So this is how you can do it. But in the first tab, you don't have the option to display both. It's like basically you'll have to do this. Now this can't be used regularly as a table for a clear visible reason. I can't put column headers for this. So these are by default territory ID. These are just a demarcation or add-on count or percentage. I can't give column headers for this. So what happens is, this kind of thing that you would want to do is only when in the selection box, right? So this is a selection box. You just want to give a user a quick glance that, okay, how many territory IDs, sales order IDs are there for a particular territory, or what is the share of that territory. So that's all you can do. So this is like a minimal thing. So you can have multiple expressions, like over here I have the sum of order quantity too. So you can have multiple expressions. So like this you can have multiple. You can have this. Okay, now I have two expressions. This enable disable allows me to, like, whether it should be enabled or disabled. If I uncheck this enable, it will be disabled. So you see that red into 1, only that will be enabled. So definition is nothing but if I want to change this count or sum, over here I have the definition. I can go back and change it over here. Again, everything in QlikView can be conditionally hidden or displayed. So always displays it every time. Conditional, give the condition, it will enable or disable the option. Alignment, data left, right, left, center, right, data left, center, however you want it to be aligned. Display options, we'll come back to this display options later. Add, promote, delete is for this, so you can add, we can promote which one you want. Suppose I have these two, right? I have these two. Suppose I enable the sum of auto quantity. What is happening is first is count, then sum of auto quantity, third is percentage. Now I want the sum of auto quantity to be first. So if I promote it, so it will move the sum of auto quantity into the first column like this. When you have null, how you want to represent it. When missing symbol, how you want to represent it. The sorting is basically how you want this to be sorted. Sorting is also similar to all the objects. So wherever there is an option available for sorting is the same logic. First is the state. Now state is nothing but, so if I select 5, right? So let's see this. If I select 5, you're seeing that the sorting is still intact, right? 1 to 10 sorting, the territory ID 1 to 10 sorting is still intact. Now if I say auto descending or ascending, what will happen is whatever I select will come on top. Within that selection there will be a sorting, and whatever is excluded within that there will be a sorting. What I am trying to tell is, suppose I say select 2, 5 and 8, right? All the selected green values will be on top. Within that 2, 5, 8 is sorted. Within the excluded 1 to 10 is sorted, right? So this is the state. First sort will become state. State is nothing but whether selected or excluded. Based on that it will sort, and within that it will sort by numeric value, the second sort order that I have given, numeric value. Now I don't want this to be sorted by based on this. I want it to be sorted based on the order quantity. So we have this order quantity, right? What I can do is I can write an expression. This is not only here, anywhere. So wherever you find this expression sort order, right? You can say expression, and you can write a rank. So giving a weight. So like the weight can be a particular field, weight can be a particular expression. So I can say order quantity. Right. I can say order quantity is ascending. If I flip that to descending, I'll have the highest order quantity on top, then the lowest. Right. So this way you can enable sort based on an expression. You don't have to rank a particular value in the backend, then use the sort order over here. So you have a field that you want to sort it based on a particular calculation. You can easily do it over here directly. You want to sort it based on the frequency, so you can go ahead, select frequency, it will sort. Now it is, when you are using this frequency option, right, it is not mandatory for you to have any of these calculations, right? It's not because of this calculation that the frequency sorting is done. The frequency sorting is still intact based on the backend. So even without the show frequency or without the count of order quantity or anything, you can still sort this based on the frequency of this territory ID. So it will be available in most of the charts. So these are the few options that are not there in any traditional BI or have been very challenging for reporting. So imagine if you had to sort a particular, particular report based on a rank, right, based on a expression outcome like sum of value or anything. So the challenge was you had to do a ranking in the backend, then bring out those ranks or do it manually or anything. So here you have the expression. Frequency is like you want to sort based on how many number of times the territory is repeated. So if you can see. Then the normal other thing is numeric value. So it will sort 1 to 10. Text order if it is alphabets or alphanumeric. The last one is interesting, the load order. So load order is basically what it does is, I have 1 to 10 territory ID, right? But my first sales order ID in the database might have territory 9, second might have territory 5, third might have territory 4, fifth might have territory 2. Now while loading, QlikView goes row by row, right, from the top to the bottom. So that is the load order for QlikView, 9, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's the load order for QlikView. If I use the load order option over here, it will sort the territories based on which one was loaded first. On this data, it is all normalized. Territory 1 was loaded first, so it is sorted. Otherwise, generally, it will sort based on, like for customer, right? You want to see who is your first customer. You can always say load order and you will get to see the first customer. So in the database, if you see now, the numeric sorting is changed. In the database, the first customer is some 2815, right? So this is how you do it, 2984, 825. So that's the load order. Under presentation, you have text, you have image. We'll come back to this text and image. Text is nothing but displaying the normal values. Image is when you use image. We'll come back to it. Now let me bring the field. So these are the list boxes, right? Now suppose I want to create multiple list boxes. I'll have to keep going and doing sheet, new sheet, list box, list box, list box. It doesn't make sense. So what QlikView has done is, so in the properties underscore, so if you go to the properties of the sheet, the fields tab that I told I'll talk later is nothing but it lists out all the list boxes that you have in the option, and it will quickly give you all the available fields in the application. You can pick and choose immediately what are the fields that you want to create list box. Like I want to create it for year, I want to create it for month. So QlikView will immediately create a year and month listing. Now year and month I want to give a selection on top, so I want it horizontal. You go to the properties of the list box. Under presentation, you have something called a single column, which will always by default be checked. Uncheck it, you'll be able to do it a multiple row, multiple columns. So if you just resize this object, once you have unchecked that, you'll have this in a horizontal row. The same is for month. You'll have to do it, right click, properties, presentation, single column, month, right, properties. You can say fixed number of columns. Once you have unchecked single column, this will be enabled. So you can say I need only max to max 3 columns. So it will always have 3 columns only, not more than that. See, if it's not giving you more than 3 columns kind of a scenario. Uncheck this. Now when you have more columns, right, suppose like this scenario, it says it's going Jan top to bottom, then it's going horizontal, right? Jan to March, then April, like that. Now if you come here and say order by, uncheck order by column, it will go from the top. So it'll say Jan, Feb, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. So it will go that way, horizontal. Cell borders, if you select, the cell borders will be visible. Highlight, search, substring is, that's what, if you uncheck this, that yellow color will not count. What I mean is, suppose if I say 2, 3, so this yellow is highlighted, right? 2, 3 is highlighted, so that is not gonna show if I uncheck that. Alignment, left, center, how you want the data to be. Wrap text will enable you to increase the height of the cell. So if helps you, if you want to increase the height of the cell, you can use wrap text or here, cell text. Next option is the numeric. Numeric is again common for everything. It's the same thing. At the document level, you can define some numeric values. By default, it is defined as the data that is loaded. So when you're loading data, whatever QlikView interprets, that's the document default format that is stored. You can override that setting. So go ahead and override it, and you can choose how you want to display it. Whether you want it to be mixed, numeric, integer, fixed to, however you want to, right? Integer will give you only integer, number will give you like rounding off to 4 position. Fixed will give you just 2 decimal places or whatever decimal places that you select. On right hand side, you can see the preview and format pattern. Now these are standard formats. The moment you select, they will be visible. In case you want, you can modify these, like money. So money, you don't want dollar, you may want INR. So you can update, change it over here only. Date, you want more specific date, you can say mm. So on top you can see the formats also, right? So sorry, it says May 21, 19, like that. Time, like I said, time is only for time. Timestamp is for both date and time. So if you look at it, date and time it is. Time is only to display time. Interval is to display the interval between 2 time periods. Now number, when you use number, integer or fixed to, right, this show in percentage also gets enabled. If your value is a percentage value, so you can use this, it will convert to a percentage. Now what happens is, when as soon as you use show in percentage, it will blindly multiply by 100 to show it as a percentage. So you should make sure that whatever you're selecting as integer is in decimal, so that when you apply it as show in percentage, it converts it to 100%. So that is the overall. I think this one, I'll leave it as. So those are the options for number. Now font layout, like I said, caption are same for all the objects. I will do this in detail tomorrow, so that once I do it, I will not be repeating this for all the other objects. So I would say go ahead and see what all properties that you can build in list boxes, and also I think the data modeling is still pending practice. So I would suggest if it is pending, go ahead and do that. Maybe tomorrow we'll continue with the rest of the properties.